Today, we are embarking on a quest to be the very best, in fact, the best there ever was, in PokePath Tower Defense. This is a Pokemon-themed tower defense that gives me oh so much nostalgia. Not from the Pokemon theme, however, though that does give me quite a bit of nostalgia too. No, this brings back memories of another Pokemon Tower Defense game that I played and I think covered on Flash Player at some point, somewhere, called Pokemon Tower Defense. It was really, really good at the mechanics that it did. Very well-balanced blend of Pokemon and Tower Defense themings. However, nowadays it's a little bit harder to get your hands on, not just because the browser versions of software aren't really compatible with it anymore, but I don't know where a full finished, completed version of the game is. I did some light Googling, and that is not the game I remembered. So, if you're willing to dive deep into the internet mines, you can probably find it, but PokePath here does bring it back in a pretty damn fun way. It has a couple flaws, I will admit, but this is still a really good tower defense mixed with Pokemon-themed game. So, let's jump into it and see how it plays. How it controls is with its left click on the mouse and a beginning starting Pokemon. Your first Pokemon, a choice of 3. So nice. I picked Froakie and I've evolved it into this isn't my generation, so I don't... Frogadier? I think that's Frogadier. Not my generation. Little too late for me. But, nevertheless, that's who I picked the third time. But we'll get into that later. With your new Pokemon, you will want to deploy it on the field. If we click the deploy button with our left click, we have a choice of where to put it on the highlighted squares. Obviously, because it's a water Pokemon, it can go in the water or in the general plains type areas. Can't go in tall grass, however, or onto mountain paths. Mountain paths? No, mountain ridges. That's probably more for it than that. We're going to place you here. And we can then start a wave. Not because we are at wave 50 of... I'll be honest, I don't know how many waves. There's a lot of Pokemon in this game, and they come at you really hard. This is a hard game. This is hard. So let's put down a couple extra Pokemon that we acquired along the way. We have a Lapras that I know fits here very well. We have a Lilligant, who will be placed here. Note that she has a different array as it comes to her tower defense power. We'll get to that later. Whimsicott will go here. We have a Torkoal that I know fits right there. A Cast Form, which can go anywhere because of its special abilities. I'm just going to place you here because I know things. And then a Murkrow for just safety's sake. I'm kind of leveling him up at the moment. Now, with that said, we can begin the next wave. Yay! And the towers will do their thing. Now, here is where this game gets quite interesting. See, every single Pokemon that you can acquire as a tower has a different power. There is a couple overlaps here and there, but generally speaking, for the ones that I have currently found, they all have some different and unique abilities. See, we can see this Torkoal here. If we go over to his data page next to the left side of the screen, we can see not just his level, but his power and a whole bunch of numbers, including where he can be placed and what type of attack he does, including his ability. Attacks have a 50% chance to burn the target for 10 seconds, causing it to lose 0.5 HP per second. Now, this is locked as an area effect tower. So if we hover over here, Torkoal itself, you can see that everywhere in that blue area, whenever it attacks, it will do a burst of heat, potentially burning all of the early enemies. That goes same with Lapras, only you can freeze or stun your enemies in its area. The Frogadier, whatever it's called, I prefer Totodile, has a shot that bounces. Our Lilligant has an ability to hit 3 enemies at once because it's been evolved from a previous version that could only hit 2. And so on and so forth. Every Pokemon has just a little bit of a uniqueness to them that makes them really, really useful as towers, and you are going to be wanting to swap them out every now and then because not only are there many, many different varieties of Pokemon coming down the path, but also different levels that require different types of attacks and variants and covering all your exit gates and whatnot. In fact, if we go over here to one of the tabs, we can see which route we can select. We have, obviously, starting with 1-1, we unlocked Route 1-2, and I just recently unlocked 2-1. Now, this is where the flaw, I would say, well, the questionable flaw that goes into the main flaw of this game. This is a grindy game. That's not a problem to some, obviously, but if you don't want to spend quite a few hours leveling up your Pokemon and unlocking new stars and new waves to get new things, new levels, and, more slots for Pokemon, this might not be for you. It does get better. There is an initial hump, but generally speaking, this is quite grindy. Again, not a problem to some people, but it can be a turnoff. Here's where the actual flaw that I see in this game comes from. See, it's how you acquire Pokemon. Every time you defeat a wave or specific Pokemon in a wave, you get money based on their level. In fact, if we go to the right side of the screen, you can even highlight, with the left click, the Pokemon that are coming through. We have a Chimecho here that is really, really strong. Not terribly fast, but faster than, well, just regular 1 speed. It's got 1 power, which really doesn't matter. It's got regen, which is actually a little scary, of 10. Plus, it's able to be stunned, burned, poisoned, all sorts of status ailments like Pokemon and whatnot. It's not invisible, hence why I have a Murkrow. That's the evolutionary form, because Murkrow can hit invisible enemies. You'll see the gold amount that you will win for each defeated Pokemon. That scales, obviously, with how far you in on each level. You need money to both, if we go here, level up your Pokemon to make them stronger and stronger, and at certain points evolve, but you also need money to buy, another tab here, Pokemon eggs. Now, this is where the game gets questionable to me. It is a flaw, but it can be easily fixed, but here, let me go on my rant here. See, getting your first Pokemon and then getting enough money for the next Pokemon and the next, because this also increases in value of how much you need to spend, makes sense in a Pokemon game in a way. However, this is a complete random gotcha pull. In fact, we'll pull right here. We'll purchase a Pokemon, and we got Cryogonal. Okay, that's cool. What does he do? Well, we'll go into our Pokemon tab. We've unlocked a few others. If we click on him, we'll click on the data. We've got the stats, and we see what it does. Have a chance to paralyze the target for 2 seconds. All right, that's not too bad. However, in the start of the game versus now as I'm like 3 or 4 hours in, that actually makes a big difference. I had previous versions of this game, previous save files that I had to restart over and over again because I kept pulling Pokemon that weren't actually that great. And because this is a grindy game, it means that I have to sit here and watch every single time all the Pokemon coming around, doing its thing over and over again, and kind of have a hands-off motif. Because as soon as a Pokemon hits the end of the trail and exits, you lose a life. And every time you lose a life, every time you go down to 0 life, the game technically resets. There has been an update since I played last and right now that has softened that penalty quite a bit. But it still can be a bit of a pain where you know, oh, I'm going to actually have more time that I need to spend just having this auto go, which luckily there is an auto go and a speed up function. But you know in the get-go it's going to take a lot of time to get all of that going. So I had to restart the game over and over in the hopes that my pulls were better. Finally, they were. I got the Lapras and the Lillian, pre-evolution, whatever it's called. And I actually was on a pretty good streak here. Then I got my other Pokemon, and we're at the point we are now. This could be considered a flaw. I'm considering it a flaw, but some people might not. I'm not sure. Oh no, a Golbat got out. That's a goddamn shame. But you know what? If you see this game and think to yourself, oh no, I'm okay with that. I'm willing to spend the time and play this Pokemon Tower Defense. It is worth it. There is a lot of stuff here that I really, really like. The developer themselves, or I think the group of developers, I'm not really sure, have made other Pokemon-themed games, and I know that they know what they're doing, because the other games are actually really good too. There's an Auto Battler and a roguelite Pokemon game that actually is really good too. I was actually, depending on which game I chose, we're gonna lose. We're gonna lose hard. Depending on my mood of the day, actually, I was going to either do this or the roguelite. That one's actually really, really good too. So, in no means is this a bad game, but the flaw that exists of the grind, exacerbated by the random drops of Pokemon, could put people off the first couple hours of this game. But if you're not, then you can go and check it out yourself. The link is in the description box below. My name has been Dark Arts, and yeah, no, it is still a really good Pokemon game. I hope. Here's the thing. Okay, there's two things I want from this game. One, more levels. Even though it's really grindy to unlock stars, I do want more maps. That's one. And two, a small fix, I would think. This is me, not a game developer. Game developer can do whatever they want. Instead of just a random pull, it's a random pull of 3. Kind of like how you begin the game with your first starters. You can then be like, okay, I'm going to buy a Pokemon. You get a choice of 3 random pulls, and then you can pick the Pokemon from that, making the curve to get into the game a little bit smoother rather than just pulling something that actually isn't that powerful. I got a Ralts, which the ability was really nice. It had like a burst explosion thing, but it was the weakest shit ever. And I get that, oh no, as it levels up it's going to be better, but that was a lot of money and time that needed to be spent. So again, restarting to get a better pull, not the worst choice. But again, it's your choice to play the game or not, and I think you should. I really do think you should.